Oh, we're live! Yay! Here we are! Yay! It's Sam and Yana, and we're going to do some pair programming on local support. I was just going to say to Yana is one of the things here is so there's kind of you're also now kind of like the video editor. So because you started it, you kind of have control. You can stop the video when you want to. Also, depending upon where you click, you can control which of this, whether it's your screen or my screen that's being recorded for the video. So if people are looking back on it, so what I'd recommend, particularly if you're going to start by sharing your screen, is if you kind of click on the square at the bottom that corresponds to your screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And if you do, then it should put like a little white rectangle around it, and it basically means it will lock to that. You can click it again, and then it kind of like jumps backwards and forwards depending upon who's talking. But when you're working on code, that's really irritating from the point of view of the video recording. So yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So yeah, you've done the pull request. I guess first off, you've got some questions and thoughts and things. As you say, do you want to share your screen and we'll just get into it?
Yes. Well, there are two questions. First one is tests.
Mm-hmm.
I looked through them again, and I want to discuss how to proceed. Most of them are connected with not stopping the request to do it API, because there is no internet connection when the tests are going. So, and we haven't stopped the request to external sites. So that's the main problem. I think 6 out of 8 failing tests on Cucumber because of this issue, and I think half, 6, 7 something on our spec have the same issue. So, and there are some other failures because I renamed one file pop-up for info window for markers. I renamed it, so tests are failing because they don't recognize it anymore. And there is one more issue in RSpec and one more issue in Cucumber, so we can go in more details.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at each of those things individually and have a bit of a chat.
Okay, so I'll screen share now. So that's so these are failing tests in RSpec. So most of them are because of not stubbing the HTTP connection.
Okay, right. So at the moment we have now. Is this? I guess so. Yeah, we've got WebMock in place of some of these, and so WebMock is complaining that we're trying to like do some external things. So that's one thing. Yes, and so I guess the relatively straightforward thing to be doing there is to be stubbing those things with WebMock. Obviously, the thing that's failing there, we've got a volunteer ops controller. Yeah, so we've got these kind of controller specs that, when we started out, can you scroll down a little bit there just so I can, yeah, it's from the spec. I mean, one of the things, a broader project thing is that we've got, we may just want to throw out these controller specs. They were something that, actually that I had introduced before I'd even started with Makers Academy, and that I was sort of basing this on some American sort of doing the controller specs, and Makers Academy. So this is like two years ago. I mean, and Makers Academy doesn't do any kind of controller specs. They focus on feature tests and unit tests, which I've kind of been converted to. And so one high level thought of mine is about removing controller specs from the project, but so that's another possibility there. We could, okay. So that's one thing that we could look at is the so this is failing control. If you scroll down, all the ones that are failing there, I guess are they all volunteer ops controller?
Yes, they're like several volunteer. Right. This is another error. This is also kind of obvious one because. So yeah, first of all, 3 of them are failing because of volunteer ops controller. Next error that repeats is when we render the view, the index view.
Yeah, the view. Yeah.
there is a list of opportunities from Do It API, and this at Do It orgs, actually, it's the list, an array of the opportunities from Do It. And of course, because we couldn't go to internet, we couldn't receive this information from external API. There's nothing here, and that's why, of course, it doesn't respond to any methods, and nothing inside cannot respond to anything. That's why this error, undefined method each for nil class.
Yes, and this corresponds here to not controller specs but view specs, which basically are actually even something that the kind of the background that I was coming from. They'd said, most people agree that view specs are kind of like just, if controller specs, okay, maybe, but view specs is like, it's like really intense. And I at the time when we started the LocalSupport project, is it like 3 years ago now, I was like, I want to find out for myself, rather than necessarily trusting what other people are saying about view specs, I would like, let's do a sort of a belt and suspenders. Let's do the full stack of specs to understand these things. And another approach here, something I've been thinking about for a while, is just removing the view specs. So that would be a easy way to address it. Are there any other errors that are not controller, apart from those two types that
there's a third error? There are only 3 types of errors. So and there's a third error. This one, it's again about mocking, and it's again volunteer ops controller. And yeah, the third error is just I renamed this file pop-up. Now it's pop-up hero. Because I also have now, we also have now like pop-up Do It. Because in for Windows probably will be slightly different. So probably we will, well, I'm not sure, but there is a high chance that one pop-up will not make it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's a view spec that's failing there that we could look at potentially removing that. Yeah. Okay.
So it's also a simple one, so it's either change a name or remove it.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's all in spec.
That's the specs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spec.
With Cucumber here, I just ran all this. There are 8 arrows. And 6 of them, I will show you, it's typical. Six of them are like this. They're also about stubbing. And 2 of them are quite different, and I still haven't, I'm not sure why they're failing. I'm not there yet. So 2 of them are failing because of, I think it's also stub, and yeah, this one. So it fails because it expects to find CSS, this type CSS. But there is no matches, and I'm not sure why. I haven't checked the tests yet. So I'm not sure why this failing. And the next one is quite similar. It also says that I'm looking for particular CSS, but I cannot find it.
Yes. Interesting. Yeah, and so and they relate to. I mean, I think that CSS relates to the pop-ups and things appearing in the map and this, that, and the other, and it may, I mean, there'll be a little CSS thing going on there. Yes, interesting. Okay.
So with stubbing, I can go deeper. I can do this stub. I kind of, I'm not very comfortable in doing it, but I can get there. These 2, I can look deeper and try to understand why they're failing. So, but I probably will just need some more time for that. And my question was, should I do that first?
Well, it's interesting. The what was I going to say? I was going to say one thing as regards the Cucumber tests. My intuition is that rather than using WebMock to stub individual things, is that we should be using VCR if we can to just provide a blanket sort of on that thing. So of course it may be that some of our existing I guess we don't have these. I mean that's what Samago and Marcelo have been working on, and they've shown that it works in principle on the other one, but maybe we haven't got a reliable VCR setup with local support at the moment. So maybe there's various places where it is using WebMock, and that's maybe we don't want to pull. If we can get away with WebMock, and that's what we're using at the moment, we shouldn't pull in the VCR. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and so I guess we've got the options of potentially trying to fix the existing specs, and as you say, there's this other kind of error here. And is there? And you provided a wonderful, great big list of different things on the pull request. I'm just going to do a screen share myself. Well, or not that it's in, but yes. So
I will switch to your screen now. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Let me pull that out of the way and pull this one in. Yes. Here we go. All right. Pop that over there. Yes. So. And so you can also, I noticed you've got the Agile Ventures Connection Service thing. If you click on, for example, the chat link in the Hangout, and then you replace that with the thing there. You click on the chat link there.
Yes.
Yeah, and then if you click on it again, the chat will disappear, and you'll get a much bigger screen there. Yeah, excellent. But yeah, so you've got this list of things to work on. Extra data from the Do-It API, list of opportunities in the info window, predifying, and so on and so on. Yes, and I think, yeah, I mean I think, yeah, actually probably focusing in on that CSS error is probably the way to go, because that's the one. I think all of the other things, relatively speaking, seem like they are. They're all doable. We know what they are.
Yeah.
And we never know. One of them might blow up and be very, very difficult. But that one with the sort of the CSS and I think the process of actually testing the map, that's where it might get tricky. And in some ways, in order to validate the approach, it's sometimes I think it's the best way is to sort of investigate the thing that might be tricky, and then if we can show that it's actually okay, then we have. It makes it easier to predict how long it will take us to do the rest of the stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I can do that after this discussion, and I also wanted to show you about your first comment that we are checking the type of organization, if it's active record or not.
Yes, indeed. Do you want to share? Yeah, go back to your screen share.
Yes, I wanted to show and to explain.
Yeah, please do.
There. Okay, so it's in map markers JSON. So the thing here is that we build markers of two types of data. One is from our database, another one is from Do-It API.
Yes.
And when we need this line, that's, I think it's source organization. And there are different markers. If organization is old and information is not reviewed, that it's just a red square. And if it's reviewed, it's a proper icon.
Right.
And this method, it is used not only for volunteer opportunities, but it's used also for other markers for organizations. This build.
Yes.
So in the beginning, my initial feeling was just to extract this line from this method, because it obviously kind of sends us only to a database only. But then lots of things don't work connected with other things, with organizations page, and everything's falling apart.
Yes.
So for now, I just decided to check that if we are working with database, then we need this extra step. So we need to kind of rearrange organizations, and we need this extra step.
Yes.
If it's not from database, then we just use the rest.
Yes.
So that was my point. And well, I don't know. Well, we can try to take this out from this method completely, and maybe it's the best way to proceed. But then it requires massive changes in our project.
Sure.
Well, not maybe massive, but it will require to include this line to several places.
Yes.
Just, you know, to find all these places. So
yeah.
I don't know what's best way to proceed with this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I think I understand the situation, and I can maybe make a suggestion as to a slightly to a similar approach, but I think will be slightly cleaner. Does that make sense? Do you want to switch over to my screen? I think I'm still on your fork. I may not have the very latest code, but yeah, if you get onto my screen. So it's the build method here. So you see the way I used the RubyMine to jump directly into there. So I think maybe I don't have your very latest code. Let me just go and grab your very latest code. Drop out here. Git fetch origin master. No, I git fetch. I think I have a Yana branch or a Yana remote there. Okay, yeah. So if I now git checkout,
it's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So will this? There we go. Yeah. So yes, I think we can achieve the same effect. For example, by having kind of something by changing the arguments that come into the method. So what we could have is, I mean, you're expressing the concern that this gets called in a lot of places. We're not sure necessarily where they all are, and there are situations where we need to, you know, get the additional, you know, organization data, right? So I don't know if this is the right frame for it, but we could have something here which is like, we could say get or like what's a nice word here, I don't know, like append org data, and we could say that by default is true. Yeah, so like this is yeah, I guess, see, we can see here what we're doing here is we're kind of like oh, there's another word in English which means, it's not ameliorate, what's the word, where you there's a nice word which means kind of like where you decorate or something, I don't know.
I cannot help with that, sorry.
No problem. I mean, that's something we can iterate over. The exact word doesn't matter. But so then we could have something like, you know, rather than relying upon checking about the type of the entities coming through, in the case where, you know, like, you know exactly the places where you call this for the do it organization, is that right? So in that context, you can set this to false, and then we can use that as a flag here, so we can do this, you know, and like this. Now this is still not necessarily ideal, but at least we're kind of we've got now, rather than this thing, which is kind of, it's difficult, you know, someone's like, like, it's not clear why, you know, it makes a difference. We're kind of like, we're saying you need to set up this data structure in a certain way. Somebody looking at the code for the first time might not realize why. Whereas this is like, okay, well, you know, we need to, I should call it, let's call it organization. I mean, I'm trying to find something a bit more descriptive for that. What should we call it? And what we're doing here is we're saying like, add, it's like add, so we're building it, what we're saying is we're saying include organization details is what's sort of, or include, I don't know, extra. There we go. So we've got like include extra organization data, true by default.
Yeah.
And so then we have something like this. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I think this is, it's still not wonderful. I'm not saying that this is where we end in terms of refactoring it ultimately, but I think this is a bit more descriptive in
Okay.
terms of what we want to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, understood.
And just going back there, so I guess there's
another place where I use this, checking the type of data we use. So I will change it also. I will use this approach you just suggested.
Yeah, I think this is the way to go. I mean,
okay.
Ultimately, you know, it's the kind of thing. Yeah, we'll want to reflect on to and we'll reflect on and come back to. You know, this method is longer, you know, than we would sort of comfortably like. But I think we're also in a state of flux as regards what's going to happen with, you know, the organizations. I mean, one thing I was going to mention is one thing to consider is, you know, as we go forward with this, you know, we don't have a lot of activity of people adding volunteer opportunities through our site. Something the client might say is they might say, well, actually, this, if we've got the do it thing working and the do it thing working is really working really well, is maybe we remove the Harrow volunteer functionality, you know, and you know, because, you know, we should just use do it to make it simpler. They may say, oh no, we absolutely want to keep the Harrow, that's very important in there. But so I think this is one of the things, this is like a kind of subtle aspect of like project development, is from a purely technical standpoint, there's all sorts of refactorings that we might do, or we might think are nice and look good, but in a part of the code where, you know, we're showing a new thing that's related to a new thing that we're showing the customer, the client, it's kind of, it's sometimes good to hold back and not make too many refactorings until we have more clarity about what exactly what the client's going to want.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and this method, it's mostly used for organizations, not for volunteer opportunities. So I think especially this sorting by recently updated.
Yes.
I think it's most relevant to the organizations.
Yes.
Markers.
Yes. Right. Of course, it may become the case that, you know, that is a functionality that becomes related to these volunteer opportunities, and or, you know, like this. I mean, again, it comes back to this issue of the single responsibility. There's kind of, you know, a couple of things going on here. I mean, it may be, you know, that in some ways that we just, this needs to become, you know, we pull some of things up. Anyway, yes, I think we're in a good place, though. That's I would recommend, at least initially.
I'll just start with that, and then we can refactor. I'll quickly do that, and then we'll do the
yeah, absolutely, great stuff. Okay, yeah. So, anything else that we should review?
I think that's it on this stage. I will refactor what you just advised, and I will start working on tests on this CSS thing, which I don't quite understand.
Sure.
So, and tomorrow morning stand up, we can follow up on how to proceed further, what to do next.
That sounds good. Yes. Do reach out if that CSS thing ends up being very confusing. I'll be happy to have another look at it.
Yeah.
Cool. Great stuff. All right. Thanks, Yana.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.